Hi, it's Pat Gillis here, and it's been a little bit of an interesting week for us here. About a month ago or so, we made the decision that we're going to replace the sand in the indoor arena, which it's overdue. You know, we hadn't done it for quite a while, so we thought we'd best get to that. So the last time I had done it, it was probably about, it was more than 10 years ago, I'll bet. And there was a local guy, and I just went to him and said, can you replace the sand in the indoor arena? And he said, yeah, and he brought us sand, and that was the whole extent of the whole thing. It was great. We hired somebody to take the sand out, put the sand in, done. Well, this time when I called the same number, the guy had apparently sold the company to a big corporation, which I shall refrain from calling out by name. At any rate, so we called the big corporation and we asked about the sand. Now, the part of the story that was enjoyable was that I had no idea that there was so much to know about sand. So apparently, they have like, everywhere across the world, they'll have these sort of filters that they can put sand through, and that's how they decide like how big the particles are. People who know sand, you can say what you're looking for and they can tell you what size particle you need and everything. And apparently, with horses, you don't want to use round sand, like round particles, but rather you want to use what they call subangular particles of sand, which is all kind of interesting to me. The round sand is kind of like walking on a beach. So like over time, as the water washes against the particles of sand, it rounds off all the edges. And so if you ever walked on a beach when it's not wet sand, my gosh, it's hard going, right? Like you always feel like you're sort of slipping backwards all the time. So apparently this is the same thing will happen if you use round sand in an arena. So they said to use subangular sand, which has a little bit of we're talking, little tiny particles, but that there's slight sharp edges to them so that they don't roll sort of like stepping on ball bearings or something. So that was exciting. So we got all that sorted out, and he asked me the specifications of the size of the arena, and I told him, and he said he could figure out how many. We wanted to get 2 inches. We thought we'll start with 2, and if we need more, we'll get more later. So that was fine. So then the sand started to arrive, and the trucks just kept coming and coming, and I'm thinking to myself, I don't remember there being that much sand the last time, but it's over 10 years ago. It's possible I've completely forgotten. So anyway, so the sand kept coming and coming, and then a very good friend of ours, Nick, borrowed a machine from his employer, and he brought the machine over to the farm, and he took all of our sand out, put all the sand in. He did a fantastic job. And it never even occurred to us to check it as it was going along, because the gentleman from the corporation knew the size of the arena, and I didn't even think to look as Nick was doing all this wonderful work. Well, there was so much sand. It was a good almost 9 inches in some places, but a good 7 or 8 inches deep. Way too deep for horses without kind of wrecking all their tendons. So now we have this dilemma. So we called the guy back, and it took him the longest time to agree to, first of all, it took us the longest time for him to even call us back. And finally, he asked me again what were the specifications, and I told him, the length and the sides. And he goes, is that like round? And I went, no, we'd call that a rectangle. And I thought, wow, this isn't going to go well. But anyway, so he said, after a lot of humming and hawing, he finally said, yeah, you're right. I think we sent you 2 extra truckloads. He says, tell you what. I said, well, can you take it back? I said, can you get it out and take it back? He goes, no. Brick Sand needs a chain of custody thing. If you can't, once it's out of our custody, we can't take it back because they don't know. It's important what goes in between bricks. That makes sense, right? So they couldn't take that back. So I said, okay. So he says, but what I'll do is I won't charge you for it. I said, let me get this right. So you're saying you're going to not charge me for the sand that I'd never ordered in the first place. I thought, that's not a great deal. So in the meantime, while this is still being discussed, we had to get poor Nick back out again with the machine again. And on Friday night, he took a lot of sand back out. I was trying. We have this tractor here that's got a blade on the back, but it's not 4-wheel drive. And I was just barely able to take out any sand at all after 3 or 4 hours. I'd hardly made a dent in it. So bless Nick's heart, he came back out and he took it all out for us, and now we have, we think, the right amount of sand in here, but we're not sure. We've sort of gone over it, we've tried to level it off, and we'll see tonight with the lessons how it goes. But if ever you're doing sand, the recommendation really is that you start, depending what you do in there, but you don't, when it gets really deep, that's when it's really hard on the horse's tendons, right? So we were told by somebody who seem to know something that you start with 2 inches, and then if that's not enough, you add after the fact. So we've kind of done it a little bit weird this way. We started with 5 or 6 inches, and we've tried to get down to 2 inches, and we'll see where we are with that. Anyway, that is where we are this week. I will keep you up to date if there's any new occurrences with our sand. But in the meantime, we will struggle on. It's again, it's turned into a bit of an adventure, and at least I found out about round and subangular sand, so there's something to be said for that. Anyway, have a great week. Remember to thank your horse, and we'll talk to you next time. Thanks.